here we have our character broadsheets. We make references to characters past and have invited characters from previous campaigns into the current runs, but with no context. The legends that many of these characters became would be lost to time. So I wanted to take some time to talk to each player about a character that they played, to keep the legends alive and possibly to hold their memories hostage, so that way I can leverage them against the fresh faces of our current adventure. So, the first character that we get to talk about is one that was like one of the longer lived characters of Josh, Therai, right? So, before we dive into the character specifically, how long do you think we've been playing together now?
We were playing while I was still living in Everett. So that was 2016, 2017. 2017 is when I officially left Everett. So we started early 2017. So it's been 5 years now.
Yeah, going on 6. And we're talking about Therai being like the inception of our current D&D group.
No. Because it was while I was still working at the Diamond Knot. So this has been 6 years. 6 years now. 6 plus a few months. But yeah, that's because I remember I was thinking about it, and then I was like, no, because I brought beer one time. Where did I get the beer?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, Diamond Knot.
Right.
Oh yeah, because I got it
the first session. Was you were like, yeah, I'll bring some.
No, it was like the second or third session, because the first session we had like a few beers, and we didn't really no one had really planned on, oh yeah, we're all gonna get like drunk while we're doing this. I was like, oh well, I think I saw it between the first and second session. I saw that they had like IPA on sale, and I was like, cool, like 24 of them for $12. I was like, cool, picked it up, paid for it, left, brought them home, and then I just chilled them until the next day when we played our second session.
I only remember the time that you brought like 6 of their industrials, their shipwrecks, and I was like, don't they only they cut you off after 2 of those? And you were like, yep. And then it was like, I was like, oh, this is gonna be a night.
I do remember while we were playing your campaign, though, really quickly to get off topic I'm sorry that we're getting off topic so quickly, but I do remember when we were playing your campaign, your first one, that Kyle was like, oh yeah, I found this local place that they sell at Safeway, and he's like, I've never heard of it before, and it was Diamond Knot, and we were like, yeah, we were drinking that all before it 2.0's campaign, so whatever. And he's like, I don't remember that.
I vaguely fucking remember that. That's actually really funny. Yeah, I remember you being like, I brought them like almost every time, because that was the offering, right? Is that one of us would buy pizza, you would bring beer. Yeah, that's right. That's what do you? Day one, right? Let's just take it back to day one. When we started our campaign with 2.0, I don't remember going over character creation back then, but
it was just make some characters, and then I think
we all make our characters together.
No, I think we made them separately, and then we brought them together at his place, because none of us knew about Legion beforehand. But yeah, because I remember you telling me about your Dragonborn. I was like, that's a cool idea. But we did.
Yeah, Dragonborn Paladin. Little did I know.
Yeah. Oh my goodness! Like, if you think about it, the trip that they have gone through right now is just.
Dragonborn Paladin. Little did I know I'd be making more, like, only the second closest stereotype to a human fighter in the entirety of all D&D.
Yeah.
But
like, soon as the first time I heard Matt Colville go, yeah, no, the Dragonborn, like, you only see them as great paladins that worked for the truthful king back in the day, and I'm like, oh, if only Anthony knew.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Once I figured that out, but we're not here to talk about Balthazar. But as far as like day one goes, like, I don't know, man. We've been playing what six years, nearly every Saturday for the majority of 6 years. We've been playing pretty steadily for 3-4 years now, give or take. It's pretty fucking impressive. as far as you as a player, right? What do you think is like the most important thing to you about playing like any TTRPG? Because I know you played some games before we got our D&D group together, but like what is it that you look to get out of it when you do play any TTRPG?
It's the same thing as a good RPG video game, in my opinion. Either there's got to be a really good story that hooks you in. There's got to be really good character development that like makes you want to keep playing, or there has to be a really good like world that you want to explore. One of those three tenets can get me hooked into a game. If you combine any of the 2 or 3, you have me instantly for every Saturday until I am starting to get tired of it, which I don't see happening in our main campaigns anytime soon. But that was the main thing I was looking for with Therai, was just I want to, when I first created for 2.0's campaign, I just wanted, cool, like I'm pretty sure no one's going to have a healer, I'll just be the healer, like whatever. I've done it before. I've had NPCs in my campaigns previous in my Cyberpunk 2020 campaigns that were just at the base. Their only reason, you could take them with you as long as you give them a cut of the profits from the mission, and they're going to be your healer. They're going to be the guy that gets you up when you're in combat. They're going to have all the drugs on them, so if you need some combat stims, they got you.
Yeah,
so I was
actively like, don't give me money. I need to be poor. Like the whole first campaign.
So if we want to go into the idea of Therai, with him being a hermit, I didn't want it to be like, yeah, he's doing this for riches. I wanted to make it 100% clear that money didn't matter to Therai. Like, as long as he had his staff, as long as he had his companions, and as long as he had his spells, that was all he needed. Cool.
Yeah, that makes sense. So bringing it to Therai, speaking of which, we get our first play of Therai in the way back when 2.0's first campaign, right? Well, I don't know if it was his first
in
campaign,
the stories of
the
old.
First campaign, basically like the when our D&D group by and large was born, right? Because you, me, Kyle, and Amanda, and then Dan came in to play in Kyle's little campaign for a solid minute, and then we picked up my campaign 1, and then that was when and then Bruno, and so on and so forth.
Yeah, Dan joined full time, and then Bruno came maybe like a quarter through the story.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Actually, it was pretty. Anyways, so okay, Therai. Did Therai ever have a last name canonically? Like,
no.
It was just.
I had it as I never really delved into his backstory in the first campaign, and in the latter iterations of him, he didn't need a backstory. In my universe, you guys never interact with him, but he wasn't going to have a backstory because cool. I work at clinics, I travel around the systems. Nobles need help, I help them. But usually they don't tell anyone about it. Kind of like the same thing as the original premise of, I don't need money, I'm just doing it to help the people. Even in this last campaign, like his sole motivation was, I want to find out why magic is stopped. And I want to find Balthazar because he cursed me to that last life, and I don't want that. I just want him to repent. Kind of was, wow, he really sounds like a pushy Christian now that I think about it. Repent for your sins.
I mean, cleric.
But so Therai never had a last name, because in the backstory I had written for him, his parents wanted to forget their heritage. Like they wanted to be a fresh start with them and Therai. So when they moved to the slums with all the other tieflings, there was no last name for them. It was just Therai, mom and dad. I never came up with a name for them, so whatever. Yeah. I think I might have, but those notes are lost to time at this point.
And there's always room for creation. But all right, and so he was.
Listen, there's retconning for a reason.
And so he was a cleric, right? He was a cleric for the entire time. You've never changed him any other time. He's always been a healer, a priest, a cleric, and whatnot. And like you said, you did that to fill the void, as most cleric players do. They usually play cleric so that way they can fill the composition and fill the needs of the the group. And then like what? So okay, so we saw Therai as kind of like a in this campaign, right? Therai was very much a pacifist. I think is a pretty like good way to call him.
No, it was like, it was 100% like pacifism is if you can deal with this solution, if you can solve this problem with violence, then there's a way to solve it with talking as well.
Right.
That was Therai's entire redemption. So every time that he got angry, that's why I wanted the curse there, because
for sure. But as far as so that's when we see him in the most recent iteration. Back in the day, was it the same thing? Was he the same sort of? I don't remember him being quite so passive.
He wasn't super pacifistic, but he was the same way that who you call it, Fafnir got played in the one shot, or even in the main campaign. He was very much kind of backlines, but if they need help in the front, then he had daggers, he had a staff, he could do a little bit of damage.
Right. But as far as his personality goes, like as far as you played him, I think I remember him just sort of being like, yeah, we're all in this together, but not so much like let's not fight. I think I remember him in iteration 1 being more just like down for whatever.
Yeah, like he was kind of just supposed to be middle of the ground, like, cool, I'm fine with whatever you guys want to do. Like, I'm just here to help, kind of thing.
Right. And so he filled cleric role in this current campaign, the one that we last left off with. He almost seemed. Would you say that he seemed to be like kind of like, at least he was portrayed very much as like a moral compass. Like, hey guys, we gotta do. Was that intentional for you? Like, because I know as a player, you want to have a character that's gonna like kind of gel with the rest of the party, if possible. And I know that Therai, he had his reservations about the party, but also I think is it apt to say that he tried to like keep them in the good path?
I didn't want to feel that way, but like looking back at the character now, not playing him anymore, that kind of was what he was going for. I just wanted him to be like listen, I'm fine with doing this, but there's going to be wanted him to be a reminder, almost like a tutorial NPC. Like, listen, every one of your actions has a reaction to it. So if you kill a bunch of people, there are going to be consequences. Just remember that for later in the game. Kind of thing.
It definitely, one thing in hindsight, it definitely seemed very much so like a, he wasn't wrong with Deus, like almost like a foreshadowing. Like the entire time that Therai had this arc with Deus and with the general like questioning the rest of the group, when everything was all said and done, it came full circle. By the time that he was sunset, it was like, hey, maybe there was something to that, just shy of like that let's talk to the monsters thing. But so to get into a little bit of the crunch, he was always a pure cleric, right? I don't think you ever multi-classed him as anything else.
I never multi-class. So when we did 2.0's campaign, I hadn't really I hadn't remembered that their multi-classing was a thing in 4E and 5E.
Right.
So yeah, that hadn't happened. And if I had multi-classed him, I didn't want to multi-class him until I got all my levels in cleric, because level 17 is kind of the end of the super big bonuses, and then I think level 20 is like, cool, here's some new spell slots and stuff. But even the spell slots for 9th level spells on a life cleric are just like,
mostly it's just divine intervention succeeds automatically,
which can be cool, but it's not worth those extra 3 levels. So at that point I was like, cool, I'm gonna go for mostly cleric, and when I feel comfortable that I can save the party with all the spells I have right now, then I can start multi-classing into a fight.
Right.
That would have been the plan had he gotten that far.
I see. Were there any mechanical choices that you made for a strictly RP reason? Like was there anything on that character sheet that you made that likely would not have been ideal for playing mechanically, that you were like, yeah, but this character would not do that even though it would have benefited him to do this? Just trying to pick apart any sort of...
The only thing that I know going into the second iteration of Therai was I had to have inflict wounds, because that was a spell that caused the curse on him. So I was like, he has to have this as like a worst comes to worst, devil comes out of the bottle. But
right,
we don't want to release that unless worst comes to worst.
Yeah, because you leaned really heavy into the life cleric like motif.
Yeah, exactly.
That makes sense. Yeah, that actually, especially with his sordid history and his own internal conflict with that makes sense. Yeah. Okay, let's go to alternate universe. Let's say that Therai was able to continue. Where would you see him going from where we left off with him? Had things been different and he not gone and talked to, or had successfully gotten out of and lived and survived, like in a way that was for you to be able to play him, where would you see his character going? You already said that you would have picked a couple of levels of fighter.
Yeah.
What do you think, like... Yeah.
Other than that, like I said, mainly focusing on getting Life Cleric and Fighter 3, and then the rest of it would be Cleric Life. But other than that, it would be to seek redemption for his actions in his previous life, where he was a dark reincarnation of himself, as well as getting redemption for Balthazar as well. As soon as I had felt like he had maybe not made Balthazar pay, but made Balthazar at least realize like the weight of what he's done to this world alone, let alone the previous world, I think Therai would have been like, listen, it's just you and me. This is assuming that Legion isn't there, but if Legion was there, cool. It's just you and me and Legion. We're missing one person. Let's go find her. And have them like make their own one shot or like their own side campaign kind of thing would have been cool. Right. But
getting the boys back together.
If basically, at any point in time it had felt like he had reconciled with Balthazar, gotten him to realize like, this is what you've done. You've screwed this world over. We've got to heal it. I'm doing it right now. Come help me. And Balthazar accepts. Cool. I would have retired him right then. Even if he hadn't made it to level 20, I would have been like, no, that's a different campaign for him to go explore. Like, I don't want to do that with this party because that's going to be dragging it way down.
I see. So, I mean, and that would be the ideal ending for you then, right?
Yeah.
So, let's take this from what has happened and let's ask the question in your own head canon, right? Like, this is your character. You have implemented him in your own world. You could implement him in whoever runs the next campaign, if you know, so on and so forth. So, has his canon ended in your mind, or is there still like a lot more that you could do with him, or what do you envision an ideal ending for him being?
So, like I said, when I first started the Far Reaches Iliad saga, like, what are your characters doing? What are your characters in the last campaign? What would they be doing in space? What are your characters from, like, I don't think I asked you guys because I kind of figured like, you guys aren't going to care what Aliaga is doing in Far Reaches, but that's where he is. And then like, I'm just like, cool. Like, this gives him the same reason why Balthazar was in the World of Athru campaign. Like, cool. There's probably a Therai around there too, and I didn't get to play him because I didn't realize Balthazar was going to be there. And as soon as you did that, it was kind of like a player showing the DM their hand. Cool. Now the DM also knows what he can pull out, and you can't call bullcrap on because you have access to it.
Right.
It was like, cool. Now, if we ever go back to that world, I can play Therai and just be like, yep, no, he's looking for his friend because he wants to help him. And then if the party prods him, then he can be like, yep, no, I just want to make my friend like realize his sins. Cool, done.
All right. So what is, speaking of headcanon, speaking of possibilities, what's an adventure plot that your character like did that we didn't get to see? Like in your own version of this character, there's been like huge swaths of time that we didn't get to see. What's like a brief, give me an elevator pitch of an adventure like that Therai went on that we didn't get to see?
Ooh, I mean, the entire Therai, like if we just wanted to do a one shot, Therai going down to meet the masters would have been cool in itself. Like we already did that with the warlocks of the Black Veil, but having Therai and like 2 hubbub vampires also with him, that would have been fun. I think also a few other things is like, what is it like for Therai to realize like, cool, he's in the land of the dragons and there's like not a lot of them anymore, if any.
Talking about
what does he do when he finds
he spent roaming?
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
Like, what does he do when he finds one? That would be a cool like one-on-one campaign or something like that too. But really, I just made Therai out to be a giant nerd, which is kind of fitting because that's exactly what I am. So you're kind of asking me, so where do you see yourself in 5 years? And I'm like, I don't. Oh, I haven't thought of 2 months ahead of time. I'm gonna eat top ramen in 5 years, probably. Who knows?
Well, that's actually a good segue, because
where do you see your character in 5 years?
The last question that I do have to ask is will you play the character again in the future? That if that is this campaign that we're currently running, if it is like the next campaign, what have you, like, do you plan on picking him back up and actually playing him as a player in another iteration?
You guys will see him again pretty soon. I don't want to say very soon because very soon can have like very wrong connotations of, oh yeah, no, he's gonna pop up tomorrow. Ha 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 ha.
Just in case you want to retire Groff or Gall.
No, but I mean, you've kind of made it clear that Therai at this point in Embers of Hope is kind of like he is off doing his thing. He's trying to not be around people because beyond his cursed arm, he also is now partially vampire ? So that's kind of like maybe a one shot for some adventurers to find him later on. But like at this point in my headcanon for Embers of Hope, Therai is gone. Like he is a DM NPC at this point. In other worlds, like I said earlier, I already had plans for Therai in Iliad Saga. Like there might have been a chance that you guys would have come across him, but because I was letting you guys name the NPCs for psionics, there's a reason why Fafnir never met Therai. Because if it was just cool, no, you know a contact, go ahead and make the roll for me, Julian. You made the NPC. And I was like, all right, cool, we're gonna keep with the Japanese influence. I'm not gonna like, oh yeah, it's a red demon guy. He's totally normal, he fits right in. Although with the Onis and stuff, he'd probably be like,
I was gonna say, like,
yeah, I'm the teacher. Everyone gets scared shitless of me. Yeah, but no, there are plans to have him in future campaigns of mine, just because, like with Balthazar, it's kind of like a core now. Like this is a memory fragment of our time together. I don't want to lose that. So if I can keep polishing that gold, then I won't forget where it came from. So that there's a reason why there's Emiko in my campaign. In Iliad, there was plans for you guys to meet Rave, Kaioken, and John as well. And then, cool, we're here now. So you've kind of given me free access to be like, nah, I can just pick Kaioken out and there's no problem. Well, actually you haven't, but yeah. Like I do have plans for the Iliad Saga, and since the Cyberpunk game I'm running in the future is going to be taking place technically in that universe, there's still a chance for you guys to see him.
That's awesome and foreboding. Well, that's all the questions I have to get to know Therai a little bit, to kind of figure out his future, his past, his where we left off with his present. Who's to say where we'll see him next? That's awesome.
Yeah.
Next time that we hear from you, I think I want to talk about Emiko.
That's going to be a fun one.
Or we'll spice it up.
That one I actually...
No.
Listen, we could do Rabe as well. Rabe was...
He was interesting.
Rabe was born from disappointment for our original character idea.
And died.
So when we couldn't...
There's my one chime in. I'm allowed it.
That too. Man. Like, that was just... I'm glad I left before he described the ending.
Yeah. Well, we'll have to save that for the next time that we take a look at the character broadsheets.